defends martial arts England gave the world. In 1743, two men stood inside a crude fighting ring in London. The crowd roared as fists slammed into flesh. Blood hit the dirt. This was not street violence. This was organized combat with rules. And the man who wrote those rules, Jack Broughton, unknowingly helped shape the history of martial arts in England. But boxing was only one part of a much older story. For centuries, England produced its own combat traditions, some born in medieval battlefields, others in Victorian gyms. Today, we explore 10 real martial arts that originated or flourished in England. 1. Bare-knuckle boxing. One of England's most famous martial traditions is bare-knuckle boxing. Organized prize fighting began in England during the early 18th century. The first recognized champion was James Figg, who opened a fighting academy in London around 1719. Figg trained fighters in boxing, fencing, and quarterstaff. After Figg's death, his student Jack Broughton became champion. In 1743, Broughton created the first official boxing rules, now known as Broughton's Rules. These rules introduced concepts like no hitting a downed opponent, a 30-second recovery period. These regulations helped transform brutal street fights into structured sport. Modern boxing traces much of its lineage back to these English prize rings. 2. The London prize ring style. By the early 1800s, boxing had evolved. The London prize ring rules, introduced in 1838, formalized bare-knuckle fighting even further. Unlike modern boxing, fighters could grapple, throw opponents, strike with open hands. Rounds ended when a fighter fell to the ground. These matches could last dozens of rounds, sometimes continuing for hours. And one famous fight occurred in 1860, when Tom Sayers faced American boxer John C. Heenan in a match that lasted 42 rounds before authorities stopped it. The fight symbolized the golden age of English prize fighting. 3. Bartitsu, the first mixed martial art. In 1898, a British engineer named Edward William Barton Wright returned to London after living in Japan. He had studied jujutsu. Inspired by what he learned, he created Bartitsu, a hybrid martial art. Bartitsu combined Japanese jujutsu, boxing, French savate, cane fighting. Barton Wright opened the Bartitsu Club in London in 1899. It is widely considered one of the earliest mixed martial arts systems in the modern world. Interestingly, Arthur Conan Doyle referenced Bartitsu in the Sherlock Holmes story The Adventure of the Empty House, 1903. Holmes used a fictionalized version called Baritsu. 4. Quarterstaff fighting. Long before boxing rings, English fighters trained with the quarterstaff. The quarterstaff was a wooden pole roughly 6 to 9 feet long. It was widely used in England during the Middle Ages. Historical manuals from the 16th and 17th centuries describe techniques for striking, blocking, and sweeping opponents. One of the most famous sources is George Silver, an English fencing master who wrote Paradoxes of Defense in 1599. Silver argued that traditional English weapons like the quarterstaff were superior to foreign fencing styles. Quarterstaff training was common among soldiers, travelers, and rural communities. 5. Single stick. By the 18th and 19th centuries, single stick became a popular combat sport. The single stick was a wooden stick used to simulate sword fighting. Participants wore protective headgear and fought using one-handed strikes. British soldiers used single stick training to prepare for saber combat. In Victorian England, single stick competitions were common at fairs and military schools. The sport helped preserve sword fighting skills even after firearms became dominant. 6. Catch-as-catch-can wrestling. England also produced one of the most influential wrestling styles in the world. It was called catch-as-catch-can, often shortened to catch wrestling. This style emerged during the 19th century, especially in Lancashire. Unlike earlier wrestling traditions, catch wrestling allowed holds anywhere on the body, submissions, joint locks. Promoters organized tournaments across Britain. One famous champion was Billy Riley, whose gym in Wigan became known as the legendary Snake Pit. Catch wrestling later influenced professional wrestling, submission grappling, and even modern MMA. 7. Lancashire wrestling. Before catch wrestling, Northern England had its own folk style known as Lancashire wrestling. This form emphasized throws, trips, and holds. Competitors often began matches with a grip already established, which allowed for immediate action. The style was especially popular among industrial workers in Lancashire during the 1800s. Many techniques from Lancashire wrestling were later absorbed into catch wrestling. 8. Cornish wrestling. In the far southwest of England, another unique style developed: Cornish wrestling. This tradition dates back hundreds of years, with records appearing as early as the 16th century. Cornish wrestling emphasizes jacket grips and throwing techniques. A clean throw where the opponent lands flat on their back is called a back. By the 19th century, Cornish wrestling tournaments were common throughout Cornwall. The Cornish Wrestling Association, founded in 1923, still promotes the sport today. 9. Cumberland and Westmoreland wrestling. In Northern England, another regional style evolved. Cumberland and Westmoreland wrestling focuses on throws from a standing grip. Both wrestlers begin with arms locked around each other's bodies. The goal is simple: throw your opponent so that any part of their body touches the ground before yours. This style became a centerpiece of rural sporting festivals in Cumbria. Today it remains an important part of regional heritage. 10. British military combatives. In the 20th century, England contributed to modern military martial arts. During World War II, British commandos required effective close-quarters combat techniques. Two men played a major role in developing these systems: William Ewart Fairbairn, Eric Anthony Sykes. Both had served in the Shanghai Municipal Police, where they gained real combat experience. They created a practical system combining boxing, judo, knife fighting, street self-defense. Their teachings were used to train British commandos and the Special Operations Executive, SOE. The famous Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife, introduced in 1941, became an icon of British Special Forces. When people think of martial arts, they often imagine Asia. But history tells a different story. From medieval quarterstaff fighters, to Victorian prize fighters, to World War II commandos, England built its own fighting traditions, centuries before modern MMA. And many of those techniques still survive today, hidden in plain sight, inside the history of combat itself.